In the twilight hours of an ancient town, nestled between ancient hills and shadowed under a canopy of stars, there existed a peculiar figure. His name was Jonas, a man whose very essence seemed to resonate with the divine silence of the night. He stood by the edge of the village, the silver lunar light casting ethereal reflections upon his sweat-slicked brow and the beads of sorrow that traced his furrowed cheeks. In the still of the evening, the air was thick with the scent of cedar and frankincense, mingling with the earthy whispers of the wind. This was no ordinary evening. It was a night drenched in the somber beauty of God's mysterious and often unfathomable plan. Jonas was the chosen one, the one spoken of in hushed reverent tones by the elders and the young alike. His was a visage that bore the weight of countless prayers and expectations, a halo of divine potential that seemed to shimmer upon his shoulders like a luminous burden. Yet in his heart, the anguish of isolation surged a tempestuous sea that threatened to drown his very soul. The burden of his chosenness weighed heavily upon him, a relentless storm that echoed the cries of abandonment that reverberated within his spirit. The villagers knew of his trials. They had witnessed his moments of fervent communion with the divine, where his spirit seemed to lift from the earth and dissolve into the celestial realms. They had seen him night after night in fervent prayer pouring out his heart to God with a raw, almost desperate fervor. Yet even the most fervent prayers seemed to falter in their fulfillment, threading through the unseen tapestry of divine intentions, leaving Jonas with an unsettling chasm of solitude. As he gazed into the depths of the well, its dark echoing silence mirrored the profound emptiness within his soul. He could hear the distant faint resonance of a church bell, tolling a reminder of the sacred rhythms that intertwined the lives of the faithful. Yet for Jonas, every toll felt like a dirge, an elegy to his isolated heart. Each note reverberated with an unspoken truth. He was the vessel of God's will, yet he felt as though he were adrift in an ocean of abandonment, far from the shores of divine consolation. In that moment, as the cool fingers of the wind caressed his face, Jonas felt an unseen presence, a comforting touch that seemed to bridge the yawning gulf between his spirit and the divine. It was a sensation akin to the warmth of a mother's embrace, an ethereal whisper of reassurance that gently alleviated the burden of his loneliness. He closed his eyes, allowing the presence to seep into the very marrow of his being, and for a fleeting moment felt the encompassing arms of God's eternal love. But as swiftly as it came, the presence receded, leaving Jonas once more to grapple with the gnawing ache of his isolation. He opened his eyes to the starlit sky, the constellations above seeming to mock his plight with their distant, indifferent brilliance. He wondered how it could be that God, the omnipotent and omnipresent, had chosen him, an insignificant mortal, as the conduit for his will, only to forsake him in the bitter solitude of his own existence. Jonas's heart ached with a yearning that transcended mere mortal comprehension. He longed for the divine embrace, the sacred communion that could mend the rift within his spirit. He remembered the ancient teachings, the tales of prophets who had walked the same path, burdened by the weight of their callings, yet sustained by the invisible tendrils of divine grace that held them ever close to the heart of God. The village well, with its ancient stones and weathered surface, became a symbol of his spiritual journey. Every drop that splashed into its depths mirrored the tears that streamed down his face, a testament to his deep, unrelenting sorrow. Yet beneath the surface, there was a flicker of hope, a nascent promise that God's plan for him was not one of eternal abandonment, but a redemptive path leading to a rescue profound and eternal. Jonas took a deep breath, filling his lungs with the night air, and felt a renewed sense of purpose begin to rise within him. He turned away from the well and walked back towards the heart of the village, his steps grounding him in the tangible reality of his earthly existence. He knew that the path ahead would be fraught with trials and uncertainties, but within the depths of his being, there was a burgeoning flame of faith that would guide him through the darkest of nights. As the first light of dawn began to break over the horizon, casting a golden glow upon the ancient hills, Jonas felt a renewed sense of hope. He knew that his journey was not one to be undertaken alone, for in the grand symphony of God's plan, he was but a single vital note, and God's rescue would echo through eternity, harmonizing the discordant notes of his pain into a celestial melody of redemption and grace. Deep within the caverns of his soul, Jonah felt the weight of his divine calling, a burden that seemed to eclipse every iota of comfort he could ever hope to find. From a tender age, he had sensed the invisible strings that linked him to a celestial plane, an orchestration so grand it seemed to stretch beyond the realms of human understanding. The echoes of whispered secrets from ancient prophets whispered through his mind, a symphony of celestial knowledge that both enraptured and terrified him. Jonah stood in the shadowed corners of his humble village, eyes cast upward to the night sky, where stars burned with the light of ages. Each twinkling orb seemed to beckon him, urging him toward a path fraught with peril and promise. He felt abandoned, as if his earthly companions, the fleeting faces of friends and family, were but mere figments of a reality that paled in comparison to the divine purpose that beckoned him. His heart ached with longing for the unseen, for a connection that transcended the tangible, the fleshly bonds that tethered him to this ephemeral world. As the moon waxed and waned, so too did Jonah's spirit wrestle with the dualities of fear and fervor. The notion of being the chosen one rang in his ears like a clarion call, a call that both uplifted and crushed him. Every step toward his destiny felt like an unhonored journey through a labyrinth of doubt and divine expectation. The more he contemplated his mission, the more it seemed to grow, becoming an almost insurmountable mountain that threatened to consume him whole. Yet within this maelstrom of emotion, there existed a quiet whispering voice, patient and persistent, urging Jonah to trust in the divine plan. It was a voice that spoke not of abandonment, but of a profound, enduring companionship that transcended time itself. Though he felt solitary, even in the midst of his people, there was a divine embrace, invisible yet undeniably real. God's hand, steady and unwavering, guided him always, even when the road was fraught with fear and uncertainty. The villagers spoke of Jonah in reverent whispers, and though they did not understand the depth of his mission, there was an undercurrent of hope that seemed to flow through their conversations. His name had become a beacon, a symbol of something greater than mere human comprehension. And in that shared hope, Jonah found a flicker of solace, a reminder that he was not alone in his isolation. His mission was no simple one. It was to carry the weight of generations to bear the torch of salvation that had been entrusted to him. To heal, to inspire, to be a light in the darkness, this was his responsibility. And yet, even with the enormity of his task, Jonah found himself grappling with the deepest of human feelings, fear, doubt, and the crushing weight of isolation. In those quiet moments, when the world seemed silent and still, Jonah would kneel and pray, his heart laid bare before the Almighty. He would beseech God for understanding, for strength, for the courage to face the trials ahead. And though the answers were often slow to come, each whisper of divine response would knit his spirit anew, stitching together the frayed edges of his soul. Finally, on a night when the stars shone with a brilliance that seemed almost physical, Jonah received a revelation that would alter the course of his journey. It was a vision vivid and undeniable of the path ahead. He saw scenes of triumph and sorrow, of sacrifice and redemption, and he understood that the journey of the chosen one was one of perpetual struggle, of enduring faith. Yet in each trial, there was a promise of rescue, an assurance that no matter how desolate the road, God's hand would guide him home. With renewed resolve, Jonah set forth each step, now imbued with a deeper understanding of his mission. He carried not just the weight of divine expectation, but also the eternal promise of God's unwavering presence. And in that divine embrace, Jonah found the strength to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that he was never truly alone. His journey was only beginning, but with each step, Jonah embraced the truth that he was not simply a chosen one, but a beloved child of the Almighty, a beacon of hope guided by the timeless, eternal light of divine love. 30. The pain of being the chosen one, why you feel abandoned, and God's plan to rescue you. In the quietude of dawn, where the world unfurls in gentle hues, Sarah stood at the precipice of destiny, a sacred sorrow etched deep within her soul. She felt the weight of her calling, a heavy mantle bestowed upon her by forces beyond her comprehension. It was not the cloak of glory or the halo of reverence. No, it was the cross of torment and the mantle of isolation. The burden of being the chosen one was a profound solitude, a solitude that whispered through the silence of her heart, echoing in the chambers of her spirit. Oh, the irony of grace, how it could make a soul feel more abandoned than any wanderer in the wilderness. Yet it was not abandonment in the conventional sense, but an abandonment to a purpose so grand, it often seemed to eclipse the very life she once knew. Sarah was to be a vessel, a conduit for divine truths that could illuminate the paths of countless souls. But it came with a cost, her own peace, her own joy, her very sense of self. As the sun began its ascent, she felt the echoes of her ancestors' dreams and the weight of her own expectations pressing heavily like a storm cloud gathering on the horizon. The mission was clear, yet it seemed as elusive as the breath of a ghost. It was to bring forth a revelation that would stir the hearts of many, to heal the rifts that had torn communities apart, to inspire the weary to hope again. To stand against injustice, to whisper the word of compassion amidst the chaos, to raise the voice that would not be silenced. The path she walked was one of delicate steps in the shadows, where every word spoken could change the course of history. And yet, in the stillness of night, when the world was quiet, she often found herself weeping for her own isolation. She would gaze up at the stars, those eternal witnesses, and see within their ancient light the reflection of her own struggles. The cosmos seemed to mirror her own confusion, an immense universe in which she felt painfully insignificant, a speck in the grand design of the Almighty. And yet it was in this profound insignificance that she found the echo of her significance. For she had been chosen, not by merit or might, but by grace and unearned gift that carried with it the paradox of profound love and profound abandonment. The journey of the chosen one is a harrowing testament to faith, a pilgrimage through the valleys of despair to the peaks of divine revelation. Sarah wandered through her days with a heart that ached with the weight of her mission. She spoke truths that cut like a blade and healed like a balm. Yet in the silent hours of dawn, when her thoughts returned to the sacred solitude of her soul, she found herself questioning the very essence of her being. She felt the tendrils of doubt ensnaring her spirit, whispering insidious questions into the quietude of her nights. Yet it was in the quietude of the soul's deepest lament that she often found the most profound revelation. The Almighty's plan for Sarah was not one of abandonment, but a rescue more divine than any earthly salvation. For amidst the pain of being the chosen one, there was a promise that transcended all suffering. A promise of redemption, of transformation, and of a grace that would ultimately make her whole again. As she walked in her purpose, the path was not devoid of divine companion. It was interwoven with threads of divine presence, imperceptible yet ever present. The nights were the hardest, the nights when the solitude became an abyss and the weight of expectation crushed her spirit. Yet even in these nights, there was a whisper, a soft, tender promise that the Almighty would never leave her nor forsake her. He would be her refuge, her strength, her unwavering shepherd through the storms. Her rescue was not a distant hope, but a present grace, a divine embrace that would lift her from the depths of desolation to the heights of fulfillment. Thus Sarah's journey continued not as a solitary pilgrimage, but as a testament of grace. The pain of being the chosen one became a crucible, shaping her into a beacon of divine truth, a herald of hope. The mission had reshaped her. Her sorrow had deepened her understanding of joy. Her isolation had heightened her communion with the divine. And as she walked forward through trials and triumphs, through tears and triumphs, she came to realize that she was not abandoned. She was being prepared, shaped, and ultimately rescued by a love so infinite it could not be contained within the limitations of her earthly struggles. In the end, it is the divine rescue that transforms the pain of the chosen one into a triumphant song of salvation, revealing that the Almighty's purpose for us is not to leave us, but to rescue us, and through that rescue, to make us whole. In the embrace of grace, Sarah discovered that she was never truly alone, but always held in the tender hands of a Father who knew her deepest sorrows and whose love was her ultimate redemption. As she moved forward, she carried with her the revelation that her pain was not an end, but a beginning of a transformed existence where the mission she was given would not only change her, but would also illuminate the paths of many others. And in that illumination, she found the divine truth that she too was being rescued by a love that could redeem every ache, heal every wound, and restore every fragment of her soul. Her journey had been one of profound suffering, but it was also one of divine transformation, a journey that would ultimately lead her to the revelation that she was never truly alone. The mission of being the chosen one had been a painful path, but it was also the path to her ultimate rescue, where she would find not abandonment but an eternal embrace of divine grace. And thus she walked forth, not just as a bearer of revelation, but as a beacon of divine rescue, forever changed and forever redeemed. In the quiet recesses of the soul, where the whispers of the divine weave through the fabric of existence, there dwells a profound and harrowing truth. That being chosen is a burden intertwined with an unbearable weight of expectation. It is a crucible in which the spirit is forged and tested, a sacred trial that often feels as though the very heavens are conspiring to entwine the individual in a web of divine purpose, leaving them to wander through life with a heart heavy with the burden of being the chosen one. This sacred calling, woven through the fabric of one's being, sometimes renders the soul to feel abandoned for the path, is rarely one that bends to the whims of human understanding or solace. From the dawn of time, the chosen ones have carried within them the luminous yet oppressive light of destiny. They are called not by the clamor of the multitude, but by a silent, often imperceptible whisper that resonates deep within the chambers of their hearts. This calling is both a privilege and a curse, a divine mandate that resonates in the corridors of their spirit, demanding that they step forth into a world that often seems indifferent or worse, hostile to their divine mission. Yet in the depths of their trials, there lies an ember of hope that glows with the promise of divine rescue and redemption, a beacon that whispers of God's unwavering commitment to those whom He has singled out for His greater glory. When the chosen one feels the profound weight of their mission, it is as if an unseen hand presses them down so deeply into the earth that the soul itself seems to tremble under the pressure. Every step taken, every decision made becomes a ponderous gesture, weighted with the significance of the ages. It is a role that calls for an unwavering faith, a faith that remains steadfast even when the heart is shrouded in a veil of doubt and isolation. This faith is not merely an intellectual assent, but a deep, visceral trust that even in the darkest hours, God's hand is gently guiding them through the labyrinth of life's trials. It is in these moments of profound isolation that the echoes of abandonment may ring out clearest. The lonely nights filled with questions unanswered, the days marked by an inexplicable sense of loneliness despite the presence of loved ones. The chosen one finds themselves standing at a crossroads where the path of divine purpose intersects with the mundane, yet often mundane concerns of human existence. Here, the heart cries out for companionship that understands the burden for a sanctuary where the sacred and the secular can find a harmonious repose. Yet it is in this very isolation that the soul is most intimately connected to the divine, for it is through this solitude that the heart learns to listen to the still small voice of God. In the vast ocean of humanity, the chosen one is borne on waves that, though grand and majestic, also threaten to engulf them. The weight of expectation, both from themselves and from those who might glimpse their mission, becomes an anchor that tethers them to the surface of their own making. To bear this weight is to walk a path lined with thorns and crowns, to navigate through a world where every action is magnified in the eyes of others, and where failure seems a betrayal, not just of self, but of a divine trust. Yet in this crucible of divine calling, there emerges a profound and paradoxical truth. The very burden of being the chosen one is intertwined with God's unwavering plan to rescue and redeem. For even as the chosen one feels the crushing weight of their mission, there lies an unshakable promise that God is not far off, but near ready to stretch forth his hand in times of despair, to lift the spirit when it staggers under the weight, to renew the heart with the fervor of divine purpose. This promise is not a mere solace, but a foundational rock upon which the soul may build its unwavering faith. In the stillness of night, when the world seems to conspire to magnify the isolation of the chosen one, there lies a divine comfort, the knowledge that God is weaving a tapestry of redemption and rescue. It is a tapestry where every thread of suffering, every drop of tear, is being woven into a grand design that speaks of divine love and grace. In this divine design, the chosen one finds their true identity not merely as a bearer of a burden, but as a vessel of divine love, a beacon of light in a world shrouded in darkness. As dawn breaks, there comes a renewal, a divine whisper that breathes new life into the weary soul. The chosen one may stand on the precipice of despair, yet within them glows the promise of resurrection, the assurance that God's rescue is always near. It is in this hope that the spirit finds its true strength, a hope that springs eternal from the wellspring of divine compassion. In this sacred journey, the chosen one learns to walk not alone, but in the presence of the divine, a presence that speaks not of abandonment, but of unwavering companionship. It is a companionship that whispers through the winds of life, a divine assurance that in every trial, in every moment of isolation, God's hand guides, God's voice speaks, and God's love rescues and redeems. Thus the pain of being the chosen one, though profound and sometimes unbearable, is ultimately a path paved with divine purpose and divine love. It is a journey where the heart, though it may sometimes cry out in isolation, finds its true home in the embrace of the eternal, where every step leads not to desolation, but to the luminous dawn of divine fulfillment, where the chosen one, once alone in their burden, finds in God an unending source of strength, a rescue, and redemption. And so the chosen one continues their journey, a beacon of divine grace, ever walking in the divine light, ever guided by the hand of God, ever finding in the depths of their soul the eternal truth that they are never, ever alone. Beneath the celestial canopy where stars etched ancient stories onto the fabric of the night, the chosen one wandered through the quietude of a deserted village. Its stone structures stood like the silent sentinels of a forgotten era, each cracked wall whispering secrets of lives once vibrant and now faded into the abyss of the past. The flickering remnants of a long-forgotten fire danced in the hollows of their memories, casting ghostly shadows upon the chosen one's weary soul. As the chosen one trudged through the desolate streets, an inner tempest raged within each step, echoing the weight of an unyielding burden. It was as if the very ground beneath them knew the gravity of the mission that had been bestowed upon this solitary figure. Chosen by the divine, yet feeling increasingly isolated, the chosen one's heart throbbed with both the hope and the heartache of their God-given duty. Every step resonated with the echoes of ancient prophecies, the weight of celestial truths buried deep within the marrow of the chosen one's being. These truths burned like embered coals, searing the soul, with a purpose that seemed almost unbearably grand, teetering on the precipice of divine magnificence and human frailty. The chosen one struggled to comprehend the scope of their calling, a calling that defied mortal comprehension, reaching beyond the ephemeral boundaries of flesh and blood into the sanctum of the divine essence. The chosen one paused, standing before the remnants of what once was a grand temple, now only a ruin. Here, the foundations of hope had crumbled, leaving only a shell of what once was a testament to humanity's inevitable decay. Gazing upon the ruined altar, the Chosen One felt a profound connection to their mission. This was not merely a path laid out by divine will, but a sacred journey of redemption and sacrifice. It was in this moment of stillness that the weight of abandonment bore down upon the Chosen One. They had been guided through celestial visions and ethereal whispers, yet now, in the solitude of their mission, a profound loneliness crept in like a shadow. The Chosen One felt as though they were in the heart of a cosmos that had forgotten them, even as the divine plan pressed ever onward. But within this isolation, the Chosen One sensed the eternal presence of the divine like a distant star that shone with unwavering constancy amidst the chaos of the night. The divine presence was not merely a guiding light, but a constant and eternal reassurance that though the Chosen One felt abandoned by the mortal world, they were never truly alone. The divine essence wove through the fabric of the Chosen One's being, stitching together the fragments of doubt and despair with threads of divine grace. The Chosen One stepped forth from the shadowed ruins determined to embrace the fullness of their mission. They understood that the essence of being the Chosen One was not solely about the grandeur of divine selection, but rather the profound humility of carrying the weight of humanity's redemption. It was through this mission that the Chosen One could find solace and unity with the divine, for the path of the Chosen One was one of unwavering faith and relentless perseverance. As days turned into weeks, the Chosen One journeyed through lands both vast and varied, from lofty mountain peaks that pierced the heavens to the serene whispers of ancient forests. Each step was not merely a physical movement, but a pilgrimage of the soul, where the divine truths imprinted deeper into the essence of the Chosen One. The arduous journey demanded not only physical endurance, but an unwavering spirit, an indomitable heart that could withstand the trials and tribulations inherent in the path they were destined to tread. In the quiet moments of reflection, the Chosen One would often kneel beneath the open sky, gazing upward to the tapestry of stars. Here, among the celestial wonders, the Chosen One would whisper their prayers, offering their sorrow and their hope to the divine presence that seemed to envelop them like a protective embrace. It was in these sacred communions with the cosmos that the Chosen One found the strength to forge ahead. The Chosen One's journey was not one of solitary grandeur, but a profound communion and sacrifice. As they approached the climax of their mission, the culmination of divine purpose began to reveal itself in vivid hues. The Chosen One understood that their mission was not merely about achieving an end, but about embracing a divine transformation that transcended all mortal limitations. It was a metamorphosis that would allow the Chosen One to become an instrument of divine grace, a beacon of hope amidst the darkest of times. In the final moments of their journey, as the Chosen One stood upon the precipice of destiny's revelation, they felt an immense surge of divine energy coursing through their being. This was not a mere end, but a new beginning, a rebirth where the Chosen One would emerge as a savior, not just of their people, but of all creation. The divine plan, with all its intricacies, unfolded before the Chosen One in a symphony of light and love, assuring them that though they had felt the agony of abandonment, they had never truly been forsaken. The Chosen One's heart, now transformed, resonated with divine purpose, a beacon of light that would guide others through the storms of existence. They had embraced the full scope of their mission, not as a burden, but as a sacred calling that would lead to the salvation of all. In this ultimate revelation, the Chosen One understood that their mission was about divine grace, eternal hope, and the promise of redemption for all beings, a testament to the boundless love that lay at the heart of the divine plan. In the dim, flickering light of an ancient chapel, where the shadows seemed to breathe in eternal silence, a solitary figure knelt upon the worn stone floor. The air was thick with the scent of candle wax and the heavy weight of unspoken prayers. This was Samuel, the Chosen One. the one whom the annals of Scripture had foretold to embark on a journey of unfathomable magnitude. His heart, a tumultuous sea of despair, mirrored the depths of his soul, where every shadow whispered tales of abandonment and every light flickered with the promise of redemption. Samuel's journey began in a small, forgotten village nestled in the folds of a distant mountain range. From a young age, he was imbued with a sacred gift, an uncanny ability to perceive the unseen, to hear the unheard, and to feel the heartbeat of the world in ways others could not. As he grew, so did his burden. His very essence was interwoven with the fabric of divine will, a divine mandate etched into his very being. Yet with this burden came isolation, a loneliness that gnawed at the edges of his spirit like a relentless beast. The villagers revered him, yet their reverence was tinged with fear and uncertainty. To them, he was both a miracle and a mystery, a figure whose presence stirred both awe and unease. They would murmur tales of his visions, of how he spoke to ancient spirits, and walked with seers from realms beyond their comprehension. But Samuel, the chosen vessel of divine purpose, felt as though he were ensnared in a gilded cage, unable to fully embrace his true self, for he was bound by the magnitude of his mission. As he knelt there, the weight of his destiny bore down upon him like a crushing wave. His hands, trembling, clutched the worn tapestry of the chapel floor. His mind was a tempest swirling with questions and doubts that no mortal mind should ever endure. He questioned his own worth, his own worthiness of the divine designation. Was he merely a pawn in the celestial game, or was he meant to be the beacon of hope that would light the path for countless souls? In that sacred moment, a voice soft as the whisper of the wind through ancient oaks broke through the veil of his anguish. It was the voice of his mentor, an ethereal figure who had walked the earth centuries ago, a guide to the chosen ones of ages past. "Samuel," the voice intoned, "you are not alone. Your burden is great, but it is also your greatest gift. You are the bridge, the conduit through which the divine love flows to the world." The voice continued, its tones imbued with the warmth of eternal compassion. "Your pain is not a sign of abandonment, but a testament to your humanity. The gods do not abandon their chosen. They entrust them with a mission that is both a calling and a curse. It is through your pain that you will find the salvation you seek. It is through your sacrifice that you will guide others to the light." Samuel's eyes, glistening with tears, lifted as the voice's words began to weave a tapestry of understanding within his soul. "Your mission," the voice explained, "is not merely to bear the heavy mantle of prophecy, but to become an instrument of rescue, to break the chains of despair that bind the hearts of men and women. You will be the one to unearth the hidden wells of hope in the driest of souls, to guide the lost back to the path of righteousness." There in the solemn embrace of the chapel, Samuel felt the first stirrings of hope. He realized that his journey was not merely a solitary quest, but a divine orchestration meant to rescue not just himself, but countless others from the depths of spiritual desolation. His pain, once a source of torment, became a beacon of hope, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. And so, with newfound resolve, Samuel rose from his kneeling position, the weight of his mission, now intertwined with the promise of redemption. He understood that he was not merely the chosen one, but the savior of many, the harbinger of divine love, poised to illuminate the darkest corners of existence. The chapel's ancient walls seemed to shimmer with a celestial glow as Samuel stepped out into the world, ready to embark on the journey that would test his very soul. For he had learned that the pain of being the chosen one was not a curse, but a divine call to rescue, to guide, and to ultimately to love. And in this understanding, Samuel found his heart set free, ready to embrace the mission that would change the course of history, a mission that would leave an indelible mark upon the tapestry of time itself. In the quiet, almost cathedral-like silence that followed the cacophony of the storm's upheaval, a young woman found herself standing on the precipice of an enigmatic destiny. In the aftermath of what felt like a celestial tempest, she seemed more isolated than ever, surrounded by an atmosphere charged with an unspoken burden. She was the chosen one, marked by the fate that bore an impossible weight upon her fragile shoulders. Each breath she took seemed to reverberate with the gravity of her purpose, an unyielding call that whispered through the very marrow of her being. The chosen one's mission was nothing less than to shepherd the remnants of a world teetering on the brink of oblivion. Her path was laid out with divine precision, yet the clarity of her assignment only seemed to magnify the suffocating loneliness she felt. It was a paradox. The more sacred and divinely ordained her quest, the more acutely she perceived her isolation. The world, it seemed, had turned its back on her whispering doubts and fears into the hollow caverns of her heart. Yet in this desolation, there was a glimmer of hope, a rescue mission orchestrated by the divine, an intervention designed to reclaim and restore her spirit. The chosen one knelt upon the earth, the soil beneath her cool and yielding. She gazed up at the sky, which had begun to clear, revealing a canopy of stars that sparkled like ethereal diamonds against the twilight. This celestial sight spoke of eternal truth, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, the cosmos remained unchanging, steadfast, and eternal. It was in this quietude that she felt the first stirrings of divine reassurance, a gentle, reassuring touch that whispered secrets of redemption and resurrection. Each star seemed to pulse with a life of its own, an eternal chorus of celestial beings singing hallelujahs to the Most High. They were not merely distant lights, but the very breath of God, the radiance of His divine presence diffusing through the universe to illuminate even the darkest corners of despair. It was in this celestial choir that she heard the first notes of reassurance, a celestial melody that echoed the promise that though she stood alone, she was far from abandoned. The chosen one rose, her spirit rekindled by the celestial hymn, and proceeded along her path. Her mission was to guide, heal, and unite the fractured remnants of humanity. She would travel through cities that had crumbled under the weight of sin and despair, through villages where hope had withered, and across desolate wastelands where the memory of life had been extinguished. Her mission was one of profound spiritual reclamation, an endeavor to rekindle the divine spark within the lost souls of humanity. As she journeyed, the chosen one encountered those who seemed beyond the reach of salvation. They were the shadows, the broken, the hopeless, yet each encounter was a beacon of divine mercy, a testament to the boundless grace of the Almighty. She would lay hands upon the sick, offer solace to the sorrowful, and preach messages of redemption to the forlorn. Through her, the divine would weave a tapestry of healing, and through her, the hearts of men would begin to beat in rhythm once more with the divine heartbeat. In the cities of despair, she would stand upon the dilapidated stages of forgotten altars, her voice rising as a clarion call to the heavens. She would speak of the divine love that transcends all boundaries, the love that seeks to reclaim the lost. Her words would ignite fiery passion within the hearts of the weary, a reminder that they were not forgotten, that they were cherished in the eternal embrace of the divine. Her mission was to rekindle the sacred flame that had been extinguished, to restore the fractured, and to bring hope back to the desolate. Through her, the divine intention would be fulfilled, a mission to rescue and redeem. She would be the instrument through which the divine intervention was realized. She would transcend the limitations of her own human frailty, and through divine grace, she would emerge as a beacon of salvation. Her sacrifices, her trials, and her tribulations were but stepping stones upon the path to redemption. Her final moments would see her standing before the gates of heaven itself, her spirit enfolded in the divine embrace. She would look back upon the journey with a knowing heart, having fulfilled her divine mission. Though she had borne the weight of the world, she had not been abandoned. Instead, she had been surrounded by the divine presence, an unbroken chain of celestial intervention that had guided her every step of the way. In the vast expanse of eternity, the chosen one would find her place, surrounded by the celestial choir that had never ceased its celestial sonnet. Her mission complete, she would offer a prayer of gratitude, a testament to the divine love that had rescued her from abandonment and had instead led her to become the instrument of divine redemption. In her heart, the echo of the celestial hymn would forever resound, a reminder that she was never alone, but always embraced by the boundless grace of the divine. In the hushed twilight hours, when the world lay enshrouded in the velvet of night, Caleb found himself in the solitude of his chamber. The silence was thick, filled not with quiet, but with an almost tangible expectation. An ethereal glow seemed to permeate the shadows, a constant reminder of his calling. The weight of the world rested heavily upon his shoulders, the burden of being the chosen one etched into every sinew of his being. The whispers of destiny had always loomed large, filling the caverns of his soul with a relentless symphony of expectation. He had often stood at the precipice of the divine, the realm of the sacred, and the temporal colliding in a dance of spiritual warfare. It was as if God himself had chosen to place the cosmos on his delicate shoulders to carry the burden of his divine plan. The pain of being the chosen one was not merely a personal affliction, but a cosmic agony that transcended the boundaries of time and space. As Caleb gazed out through the window, watching the stars pirouette in the velvety sky, he felt the sting of abandonment creeping through the cracks of his spirit. The solitude that surrounded him felt like an ocean, with no shore, an endless expanse where the cries for help drowned in the silence. He wrestled with the tormenting question, why, oh, why must he stand alone in this mission? He felt as though he were an isolated figure on a desolate stage, performing a divine play, devoid of an audience, the applause of the world forever silent. His soul craved the companionship of those who understood his burden of friends, who would shoulder the weight alongside him. But in his quest to fulfill God's plan, he had become an island, severed from the warmth of human connection, isolated in his divine servitude. The pain of abandonment gnawed at the core of his being, a ceaseless reminder that he was alone, tasked with an impossible mission. Yet even in the depths of this isolation, Caleb found fleeting moments of divine reassurance. In the stillness of his chamber, when the world was cloaked in silence, he remembered the whispered promises of God's eternal presence. He recalled the verse that had been burned into his soul, "I will never leave you. I will never forsake you." The words seemed to float on a soft breeze, infusing his spirit with a sliver of hope. The mission that lay before him was no mere mortal endeavor, but a cosmic ballet, a divine choreography that would alter the course of human history. His purpose was to serve as God's instrument to guide the hearts and minds of countless souls to bring them closer to the divine light. The magnitude of this task was overwhelming, a responsibility that could fracture the soul of any mortal man. Caleb's path was fraught with peril. Dark forces sought to ensnare him in the shadows to drag him away from his divine calling. There were nights when the whispers of temptation grew louder, when the allure of the mundane world threatened to drown out the voice of his heavenly mission. Yet in those moments of wavering faith, Caleb clung to the unwavering belief that he was ordained to fulfill a purpose greater than himself. The burden of his mission weighed heavily on his spirit, yet within that weight lay the promise of redemption and salvation. Caleb understood that his struggle was not one of weakness, but of profound resilience. The trials that beset him were not mere obstacles, but stepping stones guiding him toward a destiny intertwined with the very fabric of existence. Each pain, each pang of abandonment was a testament to the love and grace bestowed upon him by his Creator. As dawn broke, casting its golden light upon the world, Caleb arose renewed in spirit and purpose. The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but within him burned a beacon of hope, a divine assurance that God's plan would come to fruition through his efforts. The chosen one, though enshrouded in solitude, was also enclothed in the mantle of divine grace. The agony of his mission was tempered by the promise of ultimate triumph, the victory that awaited him in the afterlife. In the days that followed, Caleb embarked upon his journey, his heart aflame with the fire of divine purpose. He traversed through lands both sacred and profane, his soul a vessel for the divine message. The pain of being the chosen one persisted, a constant reminder of his divine calling. yet it was also a source of strength. He found solace in the divine presence that accompanied him, a whispering assurance that he was never truly alone. As he walked the path of his mission, Caleb encountered others who bore the weight of their own divine callings. They formed an unspoken bond, a fellowship of souls united by their respective destinies. Together, they navigated the challenges that lay ahead, drawing strength from their shared burdens and their collective faith. The mission of the Chosen One was not one of isolation, but of connection, a divine tapestry woven from the threads of countless lives. Caleb's pain, though profound, was a testament to the love that bound him to his purpose and to the divine plan that encompassed all creation. The agony of abandonment was a fleeting shadow, overshadowed by the radiant glory of God's eternal promise, a promise that through his sacrifice and perseverance, he would rescue countless souls from the abyss of spiritual desolation. In the end, Caleb's journey was one of redemption and salvation, a testimony to the transformative power of divine grace. The pain of being the chosen one was a crucible through which his spirit was forged divine alchemy that transmuted his agony into a beacon of hope for all who followed. His mission, though fraught with peril, was a testament to the enduring power of faith, the unwavering belief that in the end, God's plan would prevail, and all who embraced their divine calling would find their place in the unfolding symphony of creation. Thus the story of Caleb the Chosen One unfolded with each step he took, each soul he guided, each prayer he offered. His pain was not in vain, but a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the eternal promise of divine rescue. In the vastness of the cosmos, Caleb's journey was a luminous thread woven into the divine tapestry of existence, a beacon of hope that would shine forever in the annals of history. In the stillness of the night, beneath an opal sky adorned with ancient constellations, the Chosen One lay on the edge of despair. The weight of destiny pressed down upon their soul with an unbearable heaviness, as if the universe itself had conspired to thrust unfathomable burdens upon their fragile shoulders. The echoes of their calling reverberated in the caverns of their heart, a relentless chant that neither silence nor sleep could escape. Every whispered prayer, every fervent plea seemed to spiral into the infinite void, only to drift away unanswered, leaving a hollow silence in its wake. They felt at times a profound spiritual desolation, an abandonment by the very force that had destined them for greatness. Yet within this maelstrom of existential anguish, there existed a sliver of hope, a glimmer of divine affirmation that against all odds, God was still at work. A whisper, a flicker amidst the dark corridors of doubt, whispered promises of salvation, of a plan that was unfolding far beyond their mortal understanding. The pain of being the chosen one was a crucible forged in the fires of eternal purpose, where the impurities of doubt were purged and the spirit was refined into a vessel worthy of divine grace. Each night, beneath the watchful gaze of the stars, they would rise and walk the desolate paths of their inner world paths, lined with the remnants of shattered hopes and the ruins of past failures. With every step, they felt the echo of their predecessors, the spiritual giants who had walked these paths before their shadows cast long across the annals of history. They were reminded of the sacrifices, the unfathomably heavy burdens, the loneliness that had been the price of divine selection. They were the latest in a long line of those chosen by God to bear the world's salvation upon their fragile humanity. The mission they were entrusted with was fraught with peril and paradox. It demanded sacrifices not merely of time and effort, but of the very essence of their being. It called for a purity of spirit, a sacrifice of personal desires, and a relentless commitment to a path fraught with uncertainties and uncharted territories. They were to be the harbinger of change, the beacon of hope, and the herald of divine revelation to a world steeped in darkness and despair. The enormity of this calling was suffocating, as if the weight of all creation hung upon their every word, their every action. And yet, in those moments of sheer desolation, they were met by a divine assurance that transcended their transient fear. For within the vast cathedral of their spirit, there resonated a profound truth. God was not absent, but present, guiding, nurturing, and ultimately rescuing them from the depths of their spiritual quandary. It was a divine revelation that resonated through the corridors of their soul, a reassurance that they were never truly alone, that God, in His infinite wisdom and compassion, had a plan to rescue them and elevate their spirit. In these moments of spiritual communion, the Chosen One experienced a profound metamorphosis, a transformation that began at the core of their being. It was as if divine light pierced the veils of their doubt, illuminating the path with an almost unbearable brilliance. They began to perceive the intricate tapestry of divine design woven meticulously through the fabric of their existence. It was a miraculous revelation that unfolded within the sanctuary of their spirit, where divine grace began to heal the wounds of past failures, to purge the impurities of despair, and to imbue their soul with a renewed sense of purpose and divine alignment. As the Chosen One stood at the precipice of their purpose, they felt the stirring of a divine fire within a fire that would not just burn away the vestiges of doubt, but would forge within them a resilience and a fortitude that was impenetrable. This fire was not one of destruction, but of transformation, a sacred flame that would sanctify their journey, guiding them through the labyrinth of their calling with an unwavering divine presence. They began to comprehend the magnitude of their mission, not as a burden, but as a sacred privilege, a divine trust placed in their hands to bring light unto the world. And with this divine understanding, the pain of being the Chosen One began to transmute into a profound peace and a radiant purpose. For they realized that they were not merely the bearers of a heavy load, but the vessels of divine grace and mercy, instruments of God's everlasting plan to rescue and redeem the world. As dawn broke over the horizon, casting its golden light upon the world, the Chosen One arose with a renewed spirit, a spirit that was both humbled and exalted by the magnitude of their mission. They stepped forth not as one abandoned by God, but as one rescued and empowered by divine grace to fulfill the eternal plan of salvation. And with each step, they walked closer to the fulfillment of their divine calling, the divine light within them, illuminating the path, leading them ever onwards toward the ultimate redemption of the world. In the depths of night, where shadows cling to the edges of human perception, Sarah felt the weight of the world pressing down upon her shoulders. She was the Chosen One, a title that had been whispered in reverent awe, yet clung to her like a heavy shroud. A burden that she could scarcely bear the mantle of her destiny bore a silent, relentless scream that echoed through her very soul. Her spirit was a canvas for the divine, yet it seemed as though she was painted with heavy strokes of isolation and despair. The moon, a silent sentinel, cast its pale gaze upon her, reflecting the silvery tears that spilled from her eyes. The mission laid before her was not one of glory or triumph, but a profound, agonizing quest that would test the very fabric of her being. Each step forward seemed to be swallowed by an abyss, the path steeped in darkness that threatened to devour her spirit. She was to be the beacon of hope for a world steeped in suffering, yet the loneliness of her mission was a storm that she could not weather alone. In the stillness of her solitary vigil, she would often close her eyes and feel the pulse of the divine in her veins, the sacred rhythms of creation that whispered secrets of salvation. Her heart would swell with a profound longing to fulfill her destiny, yet the haunting echoes of abandonment would reverberate through her mind. How could the one sent by God to be the harbinger of salvation feel so profoundly alone? Her soul cried out in the depths of her heart, questioning the very essence of her existence. But there, in the heart of her agony, a flicker of divine light would penetrate the darkness. It was a testament to God's enduring plan to rescue her, a plan that transcended human understanding and bound her soul to an ancient covenant. In moments of deepest despair, she would hear the soft yet unyielding whisper of God's voice, guiding her with a hand unseen but deeply felt. "Child of mine," the divine whisper seemed to say, I have chosen you not for your perfection, but for your vulnerability. Your pain is not a curse, but a profound testament to your humanity. In your suffering, you mirror the suffering of the world, and in your salvation, the hope of humanity glimmers. As she lay beneath the stars, their cold light piercing through her solitude, she would feel the warmth of God's embrace, an embrace that spoke of salvation, not through grand gestures, but through the tender, unnoticed graces of daily life. It was in the quiet moments, the small acts of kindness, and the sacred silences that she would sense the divine presence weaving through her pain, turning it into a bridge that led to the salvation of others. Her mission, though filled with profound trials, was not one of endless sacrifice, but a journey intertwined with the sacred purpose of redemption. Every tear, every anguish was a testament to the transformative power of grace. She could feel the divine touch upon her weary heart, stitching together the fragments of her spirit with strands of hope and healing. In the quiet, sacred chambers of her heart, where the echoes of suffering mingled with the whispers of divine love, she would find the strength to continue her journey. It was a journey that held the promise of ultimate redemption, where the pain of being the chosen one would culminate in the ultimate rescue. A rescue not just for her, but for every soul entangled in the web of suffering. Her hands, though worn by the trials of her mission, would find the sacred strength to heal others, to bring light into the darkness, to pour out her very soul for the salvation of the world. Each act of compassion, each moment of grace, was a testament to God's enduring love and her unyielding faith. She understood that in the depths of her pain, the true essence of her mission unfolded a mission, not of solitary sacrifice, but of shared salvation. And so she would rise each day, not as one abandoned, but as a beacon of hope. A vessel of divine love, a conduit of the eternal grace that had rescued her from the abyss of despair. Her journey, though fraught with the trials of the chosen one, was a testament to the divine plan, a plan that in its infinite wisdom had woven the pain and the purpose into a tapestry of redemption, where every thread held the promise of salvation, not just for her, but for the whole world that cried out in need. With every step forward in the radiant embrace of divine love, she would find the courage to fulfill her mission to bring salvation not just to others, but to her own soul, in a profound, eternal rescue that would echo through the corridors of time. In the shadow of towering cathedrals, in the whisper of timeless scriptures, the burden of being the chosen one weighed heavily upon his soul. The ethereal glow of candlelit alcoves and the incense-laden air only seemed to magnify the magnitude of his mission, echoing through the centuries-old stone corridors. With each step, the weight of destiny seemed to deepen, a spectral chain of divine expectation draping itself all around him. He found solace neither in the grandeur of the hallowed halls nor in the reverent silence of prayer. The chosen one wandered through the labyrinthine alleys of memory, where the past and present intertwined like roots beneath a sacred oak. Every echo of a sermon, every murmur of a prayer, and every solemn oath taken in the name of higher callings played on a loop in his mind, drowning him in a sea of expectation. The pain of being chosen was an omnipresent specter, an ever-present reminder that he was never truly alone. Each breath was laden with the weight of countless eyes, both divine and human watching, waiting, hoping. In the solitude of his chamber, he would often kneel before an altar of gilded wood adorned with relics of faith and illuminated by the thin, ethereal light of the setting sun. There he would pour out his heart, beseeching the divine for understanding and often for relief. But the silence that answered was not void of compassion. It was filled with the echo of divine patience and unending love. The chosen one's plea often lingered in the air, suspended in an unspoken promise that even in his deepest isolation, he was never truly forsaken. The mission entrusted to him was not his to claim. It was his to carry in a sacred trust. Each dawn, with the rising sun casting golden trails through the stained glass, he would rise from his knees with a resolve that, though it quivered with frailty was steadfast in faith. His purpose lay in the act of enduring, of walking a path ordained by celestial decree, but which felt at times like a cross, forged with the very essence of his own humanity. Each chapter of this divine narrative demanded profound sacrifice, and the chosen one often found himself wrestling with the shadows of his own soul. In moments of deepest despair, when the weight of his burden threatened to crush him, he would retreat to the woods, outside the city walls, where the whispering leaves and the murmur of streams provided a fragile haven. The stars would then blanket the sky like a celestial canopy, each one a silent testament to the vastness of the cosmos and the infinitesimal role he played within it. Yet within the tranquility of nature, he would find whispers of divine reassurance, gentle, patient echoes that assured him that he was never truly alone, never truly abandoned. The path was fraught with trials and tribulations, each step a testament to his faith and an act of unwavering endurance. He would often encounter faces of doubt, the eyes of those who had once believed in him, now clouded with uncertainty. He would offer them words of solace, share fragments of his own doubts, and yet a chasm of unspoken fears and questions would persist. In these moments, he would grasp the cross of his divine mission tighter, feeling the raw, pulsing ache of human frailty interwoven with the divine purpose. There were nights when beneath the cloak of darkness, he would weep in the hollow of the night tears mingling with the dew-kissed earth. He would cry out to the heavens, questioning the justice of his plight, the righteousness of the path laid before him. But through each tear, through each moment of profound agony, he would be met not with derision, but with the gentle, invisible hand of divine grace. It was an assurance that transcended the understanding of human reason, a testament to the infinite, unchanging love of the divine. As the chosen one walked through the corridors of his destiny, the weight of the divine mandate would sometimes threaten to become unbearable. Yet amid this suffering, he would encounter miracles, small, profound wonders that served as reminders of the divine presence. A dying flower that bloomed anew under his touch, a weary traveler who found rest upon his arrival, the gentle whisper of the wind that spoke of divine communion. These moments would revive his spirit, rekindling the flame of hope within him. And through it all, the chosen one would come to understand that his mission was not solely about the burdens he carried, but also about the profound communion he shared with the divine. It was a journey of revelation and redemption, a pilgrimage not just through the valleys of suffering, but also through the mountains of grace. It was a path that would lead him to discover the depths of his own spirit, the boundless scope of divine love, and the eternal truths that bind the cosmos together in a symphony of divine purpose. In the end, the chosen one realized that his pain, though profound, was but a thread in the grand tapestry of existence. His abandonment was but a fleeting shadow compared to the eternal embrace of divine love. And thus, he stood not just as a bearer of a divine mission, but as a vessel of divine grace, enduring hopeful and forever on a sacred journey of redemption and revelation. The burden of divinity, a mantle of sacred gravitas, settled heavily upon the chosen one's shoulders like an ancient, unforgiving cloak. It was a garment woven from the very essence of celestial light, yet it cloaked not in glory, but in the somber shadow of solitary sacrifice. To bear such a mantle meant to feel the searing, ineffable fire of the world's hopes and the excruciating weight of unfulfilled promises. It was whispered into every cell of his being that he was set apart, a solitary beacon in the tempest of humanity's collective agony. In moments of quiet reflection, when the clamor of the world faded into a distant murmur, he would recall the day that destiny was revealed to him. It had been a day of unparalleled radiance, yet steeped with an ethereal sorrow that seemed to whisper through the very air. The sun had risen with an incandescent brilliance, casting golden rays that seemed to touch the very heavens. Yet his heart had felt an oppressive stillness, as though each ray penetrated his soul, bearing the unspoken truth of abandonment. In the presence of a figure who appeared as one of the ancient prophets, he had learned of his calling, his mission to navigate the tumultuous seas of human suffering, to be the harbinger of a divine intervention, to carry the hopes of countless souls upon his fragile shoulders. Through the fog of time and the haze of countless trials, he wandered the world a silent sentinel, his eyes gazing into the abyss of despair within the hearts of others. He carried the weight of unfulfilled hopes like an unyielding storm cloud, his heart echoing with the silent screams of those who sought deliverance but found none. In every village, every town, every lonely hovel, there was a flicker of expectation, a whispered plea, a silent collective cry that echoed through the corridors of his soul. Yet within him, a profound sense of abandonment gnawed at his spirit, a bitter irony of the chosen one. For as he sought to uplift each act of compassion, seemed to deepen the chasm of isolation. The more he gave, the more he felt the absence of true connection, an inexplicable distance from the very essence of divine grace that had once enveloped him. The paradox of being the chosen, yet feeling utterly alone, was a ceaseless torment that gnawed at the edges of his sanity. It came to him in the still hours of the night, when the world lay wrapped in the balm of silence, when his thoughts would drift like a ghostly